Okay, this is about the fourth attempt to do this. I tried to do it with Zoom yesterday, and the picture for me came up, but not my voice. So fortunately, you haven't got the picture of me. I need feedback. Do you prefer them with the picture? Anyway, this is about peer review, and some of you may be watching this because I put it on Mental Dental, so I'll put it on that, which I think is a great resource. And so it's about sort of CPD to a degree, and this is the best way to learn through peer review. And the personal developmental plan, I didn't like them. I was a trainer for 20 years, and you get more and more bits of paper to fill in. And another thing, we never had to do CPD when I qualified, which was one of the reasons I did dentistry. Quite frankly, I thought once I qualified, that'd be it. Interesting text. Anyway, and I listened a lot to this chap, so his book, Simon Sinek. So as you'll get, if anyone pays any attention to the kind of presentations that I've done, then there'll be repetition of slides. But in this Simon Sinek talk, and I've put the reference there, about halfway through he starts talking about himself, and that isn't, he's not that great. He gives the illusion of being good, and we all do that. And so he talks about having people to talk to, and that's what peer review is about. Is apart from learning stuff, it's also so you can have a good whinge and moan to your mates, and just realise that what you're doing and open up a bit is what everyone else, the struggles that we all have. It's not all pretty like on Instagram. Right. Yeah, I've got this. So I added a couple of slides, right? So the first slide is basically, that's what you get if you print out the details on the BDA. And the second slide is what I think we can do, how we can help one another. So I'll come to that in a minute. Hopefully about 10 minutes. And so these references, all the stuff that you need to set up peer review and what it's about. You need one person that's organised, and sort of one person to tabulate it. And there is money there. I think it's £1,000 if you do it at the moment. Of course, it used to be a lot more money. I'm a baby boomer. I got everything. You've got nothing. So sorry about that. But and if you go on the GDC and the GDC, hopefully things will change, and they need to change a lot. But anyway, you find all the details there. And so your first sort of peer review meeting would be about how to set up a peer review group, right? There's it's not rocket science, and within it these are. This is clearly a photo I took of part of it, and it explains what the developmental outcomes are. Now, with all this stuff, I've just put slides down. I haven't made it too fancy by any stretch, but I'm not going to read out the stuff. That's all you have to do is just press pause, and then it might be more than 20 minutes. Anyway, work out the developmental outcomes for this, and if I was a member of the BDA when I started. Then I was very hacked off. They didn't really represent dentists working on the health service. It's a difficult argument if they're supporting us or not, but most things tend to show you how to set up a private practice. So when it comes to negotiating with the health service, to be honest, this is all about working outside the health service. But anyway, within the file you can see how you can set up your own certificate. So that's what I used to do. I'd make a certificate at the end. It's slightly different for Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales, I think, but wherever you are, you just look it up and follow the guidelines. And there's a bit of a nonsense at the moment about a few people who haven't quite carried out their CPD. Now, and it's not like they haven't done any. It's just like they're like a couple of hours short because they were ill in hospital, and so they've been suspended. GDC, honestly. Anyway, so we did lots of talks, and you use your friends. So some of you, have got special interests. Talk about them. We've had all sorts of people. We've had someone who's a friend. She was consultant in public dental health, so that was interesting. A friend of mine, he's a professor of oral microbiology, talked about the human microbiome. That was, that's interesting. It's get more and more interesting as days go by. And a friend of mine who I go cycling with, if anyone has seen me pictures of me cycling, one of the guys there had oral cancer. And fortunately, he was spotted by another friend that I go cycling with a lot. And it was caught early. He's an Iron Man. But we asked the doctor that did the surgery to come in and give us a talk. And he doesn't normally give talks. And he gave a great talk. And what happened there was he spoke about how quickly a squamous cell carcinoma can occur, right? That's why patients, the public, need to check themselves. You know, if we're moving to annual checkups, it's nuts. I did a survey of my patients, and this is where things get funny, is I asked them, would they prefer me to check themselves once a year for oral cancer, or would they prefer to just monitor themselves once a month? And of course they all said they prefer me to check it. Yeah, people are mad. Anyway, I had lots of talks, and the other one that was good was news, which was given by a GP who had an accident and ended up with sepsis. A harrowing story. She said she saw the white tunnel. Anyway, and that's why news is actually on in some of the videos explaining what that's about. And oral cancer, that's within the app, because you're telling you how to check yourself. And the idea is just to nudge people, just to help them get seen sooner. And it's not just about teeth. We can do more than that. And yeah, so these were my notes for a talk I gave. That must be the talk on well-being. The interesting part is, you know, audience participation. I said, well, what do? You know, I go cycling. I find that really good for my mind. And we went round, and some did baking, and some did, you know, cooking, some did Pilates. Going around the group, and one says, I go drinking. And we all sort of laughed because we were going to the pub afterwards. He says, no, I drink. It's a problem. Now, I know far too much about that now. But it's interesting. We can help one another. We can intervene. And that's what peer review is all about. It's not so much about, in my view, about learning new stuff, although it's brilliant for that. It's about supporting one another. You know, we've got to do this more. Oh, and this is this may play. So yeah. So this is the talk that I gave, and I found it on Dropbox. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, so I must have put it on Dropbox. Oh, well, that's interesting. And that's the best thing about IT. If you make a mistake, you can go back. It's not like you took out the wrong tooth. And so what I was going on to say was that in this particular talk, it starts off saying about Tony Robbins. And I went to see him in Vegas. So I went on a talk on scanning and digital dentistry with a CEREC, 2015. Anyway, it's a while ago. And so in it, it's one of the reasons for doing peer review. It's not because we get paid to do it, it's because it's the right thing to do. And he gives a talk about a nun who was in an Ironman competition, and they said, you can't do that anymore, you're too old. And so she couldn't register and she couldn't pay to go on the thing. So the following year, she just was there at the starting line. She just jumped in and did it anyway. And that's why you should do peer review. Do not do it for the money. Do it because you want to do it, and you want to do it for the right reasons, and you want to support one another. Right, so the interesting thing now is I've run out of what I was going to say, so I'll shorten the video. Oh no, what I could say is this is on iMovie on my iPad Pro, as opposed to a lot which are on my MacBook Pro, but the software's different, and you should see the screen on my MacBook Pro because I keep tapping it, thinking that I'm on my iPad. Honestly, the mistakes I've made are phenomenal. We learn by mistakes, hopefully. I set it up. I still go to the peer review. I'm hoping to do a peer review on innovation in a couple of weeks, and 3D printing and asynchronous checkups. There's lots of stuff that's happening out there. That just saw a thing on ChatGPT the other day. It's good and it's scary. We want to get on top of it before DLP get on top of it. Anyway, so people who'd been, I'd say, look, I'd send them the link to SurveyMonkey, and they'd fill it in, and then I'd send them a certificate, and they put it in with their CPD file. And I think this is the best way of learning. Oh, and yeah, it doesn't cost much. It costs the price of going to the pub. Anyone who gave a talk, we used to give them the the huge fee of we'd all chip together and buy them their food and drink at the pub, and that's how it works. It worked for us, and as I said before, I think I put a lot of this on Dropbox. I don't use it so much now, but I probably ought to. But yeah, don't be under the illusion that this is all tidy stuff. It an awful lot of my files I've forgotten I'd done them, and I don't know where they are. And yeah, this one is, I think it's more or less the same. All that's changed is that it was the survey for the BWE talk that I gave. On erosion. Anyway, that's a big thing. So moving on, I was in the LDC for about 25 years, and it's interesting because the first time I went, I met and he was the chairman of the GDC, and bizarrely I knew him vaguely because he qualified the same university as me. And I met him on the stairs and said hi and what have you. And, I was really enthused. And I always remember him saying to me, he said, the LDC, he said, nothing really matters what's said here. Everything's sorted out at the GDC. And that hasn't changed. Anyway, the other meeting I went to was in 2005, 2006, when I made a motion from Avon saying I was worried about young, newly qualified foundation dentists or vocational trainees, as they were back then, not having jobs because of the UDA system. And I was clearly wrong on that. It just meant they just didn't get paid as much. So in 2017, I asked the GDC for if we set up a national website for the LDC, so it would be full of details such as steroid therapy for all the different types of anticoagulants that we're on, and if you had some trauma and stuff like that, sort of slightly different stuff. If you'd just forgotten, you wanted to go to resource, because nearly everybody has a computer in their surgery where people tap on, and just to give them a nudge to do to help them and their patients. But the GDC and the Wisdom said no, because of data protection, GDPR, they wouldn't do that even if we did set one up. And I asked other LDCs if they were interested, and they weren't really. They couldn't see the point, and it would have been a lot cheaper for everybody. And I said, well, we're going to make I wanted to make a website for Avon because it wasn't really that good. And I'd just sold my business, so I had a bit of time on my hands. And so I asked them if we could copy their sites, because some were quite good. And they said, no, you can't just copy our site. We spent a lot of money on it. These are different LDCs. So all I did in the end was I just looked up on their sitemap and saw who'd made it, contacted them directly. And sure enough, the guy was great. He just made a template, and he just, changed the names. And so to a large extent, that's what happened. And we ended up with this. So I'd hardly spent any time on this in the end. And I contributed a bit about, obviously the text, and the photos. I did the photos. So that's Clifton Suspension Bridge. They're my photos. But that was the idea, is to help one another using people who are real sort of experts in their fields, giving good, trustworthy advice, and we can do that if we get organised, but we're not. Anyway, the GDC, as does the NHS, it works as a top-down business model. And even the worst thing is, the NHS thinks it's a business. It's there for the care of the public. And that's, as Simon Sinek would say, is an infinite game. And they're behaving like a business with targets. And we just have to see what a mess that's caused recently. Anyway, so if you reverse it, you've got what's called a bottom-up business. And this is where we can all help one another. And you can see what I've written there. And that's what my kind of vision, I suppose you would say, is, and how we can all help one another. And that definitely includes helping some of the public that can't get to see us, whether they want to or not. So again, you can just pause it and look at it. But the idea was that if we get different peer review groups and we just ask different groups to do something, then the content can improve. So if there's, say, 10 of you, and you decide what is the best text for a 2-minute video, then we could have one done by one group for the best text for one or all children's videos, the best text for teens videos, the best one for adult videos, so that could be a really interesting one, but it's really just about teeth. And this one is also cancer. And also, it should be, this is cancer there, but if anyone looks on the app, the app's got cancer and carers. And I think carers can also be part on, they could be on the app, because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're working as health advocates, not just dental health advocates. And we're all trying to just improve all our health in a variety of ways. And by giving a trustworthy resource, it will help other people. So the idea would be then that we just have if we get organised, we have a few people who know a little bit about IT and, sort of can get it organised and what we want within, say, a website. And who knows what it might be in the future. It may not be a website, and we may be even in the bathroom as a hologram with people. But just have a resource that's free at the point of contact, using the technology that people have and they've paid for, they pay monthly for. And ideally they should pay monthly for their prevention, and that's dental prevention. And then we end up with a free dental health service. So that was my plan. And I think that this is how we can help one another. And all we need to do is it says in the, this is the e-health thing, is for an application to work for the public, it needs to be marketed. Well, if it markets you, it'll market health. And that's the idea behind the app. It markets you, and it should protect you with regards to litigation from Perio and who knows what else, and perhaps you can help me with that. But the other thing is it has to be, what's the term, authorised. I can't remember, English isn't a strong point. But basically, if we follow the government guidelines and we state that on it, it follows the latest government guidelines, and they're going to come out again soon, but quite frankly, there's not going to be any great changes there when it comes to looking after your teeth. So as long as we follow the government advice, then making it in a presentable manner, which is generally in videos for under 2 minutes that the public can just about stand, not 20-minute videos like this, then we'll produce a really good resource. And we're using what's called Agile. So this is from Lean Startup. There are lots of different terms, but basically we can still use the same methodology that lots of startup businesses use in IT, and how we can gradually perfect what we're doing. And of course, with it being IT, you're not printing leaflets then are out of date next year. It's current, it's up to date. And if you have a look there, Denflix. Yeah, look up Denflix. And again, you can see what I'm trying to achieve, because if we all have different ideas, certainly for marketing yourself, then there'll be videos on there that you may want to put on your app for your patients, but we can share the health app. Or if you're a practice, you may want to have your own your own app, and we can do that. But all the videos, then you just add links to the library. So everything that you see if you have downloaded the Teeth for Life app, every video on there I've made except one, which is the one on oral cancer. Because to be honest, my mouth's full of fillings and crowns. It doesn't look so good when you're trying to point out oral cancer. And so that's where I am at the moment. And I have got some backers now. So anything that you produce, I will be able to implement. And then we can have this, which is the dental health service. Yeah, and that's just a bit of fun. Is the pictures. So that's my homage to Andy Warhol, but it does come from a video. But one of the videos I didn't make, the first one promoting the app, and this is clearly one that I have done, and it's just messing about. And it was copying a image that we had on our sweatshirts when we were students, but I couldn't find one to take a photo of, so I drew one, and. We need to be spending more time on prevention, and I've contacted quite a few people. I know we can make prevention pay. During COVID, it certainly worked well for me and my patients. Prevention is the way forward, and if the government aren't going to pay for it, then we have to think of a different way, and we can all help one another. So I hope you find this useful. Oh, and I think you saw back. Yeah, please get in touch. I need about 5 people, 5 dentists, 5 hygienists, 5 therapists, 5 dental nurses, also 5 carers and 5 members of the public. And that's how we can work, is to develop something that we're pleased about.